Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Mackenzie and today we will be doing a Bible journaling study. Starting in John 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So already, when I read this, I was like, ooh, this is a lot of the same words multiple times. So, to break it down, I'm going to circle in the beginning, because the beginning is where everything started. Then I'm going to put a box around Word. Every time that word was in John 1:1, I'm going to put a box around it, and then I'm just going to make little arrows to each of the words, literally. Okay, when John wrote this book, and John wrote to believers everywhere, and Jesus taught, and what he did tie inseparably to who he is. So John has a really good way in here where, in this book, where he shows Jesus as fully human and fully God. So I'm just going to write, in the beginning, I'm going to make a little arrow, and I'm going to say, John shows Jesus as fully human and fully God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, was with God, and the Word was God. Although Jesus took upon himself full humanity, he lived as man. He never ceased to be the eternal God who's always existed. John's goal was to teach people about the coming of Jesus and that he was truly the Son of God. Really sorry you guys didn't see any of me writing that, but that's okay. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. Okay, so I'm going to circle beginning, and I'm going to just draw an arrow to the other word, beginning. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made. So all things, not just some of the things, all things were made. Without him nothing. I'm going to circle without him nothing was made that was made. I'm just going to take an arrow and go right here. And when God created us, he made everything from nothing. So nothing, like we are dust. Like he made us from dust, and yet he made us. Because we are created beings, like we don't have, like we are not entitled. Like so many people think that we're entitled. Like we're not. Like we are created. God is our creator. One thing that is really interesting is remember that you exist only because God made you, and like you have gifts only because God gave them to you. I'll put a little star and say, remember, you have gifts only because God gave them, and are created, or were created by God. So I mean, without God, I'm gonna make a little indentation here, and I'm gonna say in all capital letters, without God we are nothing. It makes me think, like, if a mommy had a little tiny baby, she just said, all right, good luck, little 1-month-old baby, you're on your own. Without the mommy, the baby would be nothing. It wouldn't live, it wouldn't survive. And I sometimes feel like that's how we are with God, or at least how I am. Verse 4, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. So in him is Jesus, was life, and the life was the light of men. Light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not comprehend it. So I think that's really interesting because it says the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not comprehend it. So I feel like this light right here is foreshadowing Jesus. Like, John hasn't mentioned Jesus's name, but he's explaining Jesus, and this light is Jesus. So the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot comprehend it because it is just, Jesus is just so powerful. And I think that is really cool because when we think, or especially when I think of something that is so hard that I go through and I cannot understand, and I feel like, sometimes I'm like, God, why is this happening? What's going on? Why did I do this? Why did I make this decision? It says right here that the light shines in the darkness. So Jesus shines in the darkness, and the darkness can't comprehend it. No matter what happens, Jesus is going to defeat the darkness. And I think that's really good. I'm going to box the both darknesses and then just draw an arrow to it. And I'm going to take this here and I'm just going to say, Jesus will always defeat the darkness. And I'm going to just put a little bubble around that because that is amazing. I just put Q here for question. What are things in our life that we're worried to tell God about, or we're hiding from God because we think it's too dark? So just like, have we been honest? Remember, nothing is too dark for God. And like, have we been honest with ourselves? Have we been honest with God with like what's going on in our life? I think that's something that is really good to remember. Verse 6. There was a man sent from God, and whose name was John. Okay. He is John the Baptist. And John the Baptist was a very interesting man. He didn't care what people thought about him. He just did his own thing at his own time. And that's not in reference to becoming his own person. That's in reference to doing his own thing, not worrying about, and really afraid of what other people thought about his faith. This man came for a witness, to bear the witness of light, and that all through him we may believe. Okay, so this man, which is John, I'm just gonna draw a little arrow so we remember what we're talking about, came for a witness. So he came to be a witness, to bear the witness of the light. And notice that light is capitalized, that all through him may believe, or might believe. Wow, that's an intense verse. Like John, we are just witnesses. So I can just put a little arrow right here and just say witness. Like John, we are a witness. And to keep in mind that we are not the light. We are a witness of the light, but we are not the light. We just reflect the light. So one thing that when I was reading about, I think of like the waters. One thing about me is that I'm a photographer, and when you think about taking a photo, and a gorgeous photo, like of mountains and stuff, it reflects into the water. So the water, it's not the mountain. The water is just purely reflecting the beauty of the mountain, and I feel like that's what we should be. I'm gonna say light, and I'm just gonna draw an arrow, and I'm gonna have to turn my Bible for a second, but I'm gonna say reflecting God's light. I think that's really good to remember, and that all through him might believe. So all through him. He was not that light. So they're saying right here that John was not Jesus, but he was sent to bear witness of that light. John is a witness and is a transporter to tell people what Jesus is. That was the true light which gives every man coming into the world. So the true light which gives every single man and woman. Think about that. Every man in the world. And I think another thing that sometimes I struggle with is we don't save people. John was not saving people. He was just teaching people about Jesus who could save them. Like, our responsibility is not to save anybody. Our responsibility is to share the love and the life of Jesus and what he can do for them. So that's a really good point. So I'm going to just put down here, I'm going to put a number 1. And I'm going to say our job is to witness. And I'm going to say we are not the Savior. That is Jesus and Jesus alone. Verse 10. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. He was in the world. So this is saying that Jesus was in the world, and the world was made through him, but the world didn't know him yet. I'm just going to say yet, because they will, just not yet. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. Even though, like, the Old Testament and stuff referred to Jesus and expected his coming and such, they still didn't believe. So even the people chosen to prepare the rest of the world for the Messiah rejected him. He came to his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believed in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. This is good. So, but as many as received him, to them he gave right to become children of God. So he gave us the right to become children of God. I'm going to say gave us the right. Jesus could have kept all this stuff to himself. God could keep all this stuff to himself and not share, but yet God gives us gifts. He makes us smart. He makes us wise. He gives people the chance to sing, to take photographs, to talk, to listen. You know, he gives us these gifts, and I don't think God is a selfish God. I've just been thinking about that, and that is just really cool to think about. Number 2, loves us enough to make us or give us and I'm going to say he isn't selfish, which is so good. I'm so thankful that my God gives people lovely things to think about and to desire in, or the will of flesh, so human desires, or the will of man, but of God. And I think, kind of going back here to did not receive him, I think that reading that again is kind of like, I think like Jesus already knew that he would never be received everywhere and he would be put on the cross. So just knowing of all things, because he did know all things. And I think that that's crazy that he knew all things, because the whole time that he was being Jesus, he knew that he was going to be crucified, and yet he still did it. That's just crazy. Okay. So I'm just going to like bubble in, gave us the right just to separate it because there's a lot going on. And I think the third point that I want to make is that we are here because of God only. So then the last thing I want to say is those when like you're born of blood or flesh, like you're born into a physical family. So like your parents, I'm just going to say physical. And then, but not the will of man, but of God. It's like being like rededicated, or not, rededicated, but like dedicating your life. The fourth point that I want to make is, have you asked Christ to make you new? Either have you asked Christ to come into your life and to be baptized in the Holy Spirit, or have you been saved a while and you kind of want to rededicate? Or it's just simple, like, are you working on your faith, and do you recognize that you're being honest? I hope that you all like this, and I'm gonna highlight it, and if you want to see the finished picture, I'll place a picture in here. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.